What's up guys, my name is Angel. At the beginning of last year, I recorded a video about my top 3 investments, where I also told you the returns I was expecting for the full year of 2021. Well, it's about time for an update on that, as a lot has happened since then. So today we'll talk about my top 3 investments for 2022 to see if anything changed. We'll revisit my unqualified return predictions. And lastly, we'll have a closer look at my investment returns for 2021 to see if we got anywhere close to my predictions or if I was completely off. Before I get into it, don't forget to smash the like button if you enjoy videos like this, and if you'd like to support me and check out anything that I mentioned in the video, you can find all the links in the description below. Also, please don't forget that none of this is investment advice, just my own opinion based on my personal experience as an investor. So, my situation is probably very different from yours. My wife and I have very low living expenses. That's partly due to our minimalist lifestyle as well as our inexpensive rent. Just to give you an idea, our shared living expenses are currently about 1,000 euro per month right now. Also, my wife started her full-time job as a graphic designer in January 2021, so we've had a lot more income to invest. As a result, we currently have a monthly savings rate of about 75 to 80%. Still, we're planning kids in the future, which likely also means a bigger apartment, and as a result, our expenses are going to increase. You should also know that I'm self-employed, and as a result, I'm not expecting to receive a pension once I'm old. Funding my own retirement is another reason why I'm investing my money. And if things go well, I might even be able to retire early. So, now that you have a bit more background information, let's have a look at my top 3 investments for 2022 and see how they performed last year. By now, it should come as no surprise that the majority of our investment portfolio, close to 60%, is invested in ETFs. These exchange-traded funds passively track a global stock market index and enable us to easily invest into the stocks of thousands of the most successful companies from all across the world, all while keeping fees extremely low. Our strategy is very simple. We just buy a single ETF, the accumulating Vanguard FTSE World, at the beginning of every month. Plus, every once in a while, if we have some more available cash and we see an opportunity to buy more shares at a discount if the market goes down, for example. We've only been buying the accumulating ETF since the start of 2021. Accumulating means it automatically reinvests the dividends the companies pay out into more shares of the stocks within the index instead of paying them out to us. But we still have plenty of distributing ETF shares, which we purchased from 2018 to 2020, so we're still receiving dividends on a regular basis. Here's what our ETF portfolio looks like at the beginning of 2022. Close to 50% are in the distributing Vanguard FTSE World, 34% in the accumulating version of the same ETF, and 16% in the distributing Xtrackers MSCI World. These two are still perfectly in line with our investment strategy, so it wouldn't make sense to sell them and to have to pay taxes on all profits already. And here's how the dividend payments we received from our ETFs grew over time. In 2021, we received a total of 1,665 euros in dividend payments compared to only 1,049 euros in 2020, 508 euros in 2019, and 180 euros in 2018. Remember, only 66% of our ETF portfolio pays out the dividends. The remaining 34% we have in the accumulating ETF automatically reinvest them into more shares of the companies within the index. Before we have a look at my total returns from my ETF investments in 2021, let's have a look at my prediction I made in last year's video. I think asset prices are going to do well, also helped by a post-pandemic market recovery. A lot of that is of course already priced in, but I still think that the stock market is going to do well this year. That of course doesn't mean that we won't see any price corrections throughout the year, but I still expect my ETF portfolio's value to be higher by the end of 2021. To put that into numbers, I'm expecting around 10% returns from my ETF, the Vanguard FTSE World, this year. So let's see how it went. In 2021, our ETF portfolio, including paid out dividends, grew an unbelievable 29,449 euros in value. That's because 2021 was an exceptionally strong year for the stock market, with yearly returns of 29%, 3 times as much as I expected. Keep in mind that we invested a lot more in 2021 compared to any year before, also because I realized some profits from crypto I had been holding since all the way back in 2017. But I still can't believe those numbers. Last year was definitely out of the ordinary as far as market returns are concerned. Meanwhile, at minus 5.7% currently, 2022 isn't looking quite as easy. Remember, based on historical data, I'm expecting long-term returns averaging around 7% per year from my ETFs, with a lot of ups and downs. As for 2022, we plan to invest an average of 2,000 euros per month using our simple one ETF strategy. I'll tell you my opinion about which way I think the market will move this year at the end of the video. By the way, you can find a link to all my favorite low-cost brokerage accounts in the description below. That's also where you can find the best local options for investors from Germany and Austria, where taxes are more complicated, so it makes sense to choose a broker that takes care of them for you. Let's get to my number 2 investment for 2022, which unsurprisingly is peer-to-peer lending. Here, I'm lending out my money to lending companies and borrowers from all across the world via different crowdlending platforms, earning an average interest rate of 10% per year at the moment. And I have to say, 2021 was a really good year for the sector. My investments ran very smoothly. With one exception, Crowdester, where most of my loans are late and loan repayments seem to be taking forever. Compared to last year, here's what my peer-to-peer portfolio looks like right now and the main changes I made. I added RoboCash, which became one of my favorite platforms. I increased my position on Via Invest as I wanted to have approximately the same amount on RoboCash, Lender Market and Via Invest. I invested 2,000 euros on a new platform, Bonster, about a week ago. I decreased my allocation on Mintos after interest rates dropped a bit. And I started withdrawing all payments I received on Crowdester in March after seeing that most of my loans were late. I'm moving this money over to the rest of my peer-to-peer portfolio, but it's taking a while. Before we take a look at my returns for the year, let's listen to last year's prediction. I think the sector will do a lot better once the world returns to normal, hopefully by mid-2021. I'm expecting yearly returns of around 11% from my crowdlending portfolio this year, and I also hope that my investments here will provide a bit of stability in case we see a stock market crash, for example. And who would have thought we're actually seeing a correction in the stock market at the moment, and I appreciate being diversified into peer-to-peer lending as well. Luckily, the performance of the loans I invest in is not influenced by market movements in the short term like we are seeing right now. But let's see if I got anywhere close with my 11% return expectation. I earned a total of 2,512 euros in interest, so an average of 209 euros per month in 2021. I usually show you each platform's internal rate of return since I started investing on it, but I thought it would be interesting to calculate them based on last year alone. You can see them here. Lender Market was by far the best performer, followed by RoboCash and Via Invest. The 2021 returns for Evo Estate are only this high because I received 2 loan repayments for investments I made in 2020 and I withdrew the money right after. I also decided that choosing loans manually on Estate Guru or Evo Estate is not worth the time investment for me, so I'm exiting these 2. And if you're wondering why my Mintos and Evo Group returns are below my minimum interest rate of 10% per year on the 2 platforms, that's because they both still have some funds in recovery since 2020, which resulted in less interest payments overall last year. That's also the reason why my internal rate of return for my entire peer-to-peer portfolio finished the year at 9.52%, 1.5% below my expectations. I'm still very satisfied with a 9.52% return from peer-to-peer lending in 2021 though. As for 2022, I'm planning to increase my investments in peer-to-peer lending. At the very least, I would like to get them back to my target allocation of 15% of my portfolio. I already started by adding Bonster as a new platform and by moving some of my cash buffer to Bondora Go and Grow, which in my opinion is still the best and so far most reliable way to earn interest from peer-to-peer lending while keeping a high degree of flexibility due to instant withdrawals. In my opinion, they also handled the crisis in 2020 really well, which further grew my confidence in them. I find it interesting to see that a lot of people are becoming interested in peer-to-peer lending again compared to 2020 and 2021, now that the stock market stopped going up in a straight line and doesn't feel like easy money anymore. So I'm very excited about this sector in 2022. My number 3 investment is in digital assets in the form of crypto. These are by far my most volatile and highest risk investments, so I try to limit them to about 10% of my portfolio. I see them as a great alternative to precious metals like gold, but with a lot more upside potential, yet also more risk. I started my speculative investments in Bitcoin and Ethereum back in 2017, got super hyped when they tripled in value that same year, only to see them crash below my entry price 1 year later. I definitely went through a roller coaster of emotions as I didn't realize any profits during that period. Luckily, I didn't sell any of them until the end of 2020 when they were back to their previous highs. That's when I took out my initial 20,000 euros and left the rest invested, fully knowing it could go either way. But at least now I was able to be more relaxed about it. Before we have a look at how they did, this was the bold prediction I made 1 year ago. When looking at previous cycles, I still think there's a good chance that prices will be a lot higher by the end of 2021, especially in the current environment of limitless money printing. I'm only talking about the 2 largest ones, Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't know what the rest will do. So my crazy prediction for this part of my portfolio is that it will outperform everything else in 2021 and maybe even double in value by the end of the year with a lot of sharp crashes and corrections in between. So, How did it go? Well, there were definitely plenty of rallies and painful crashes. But ultimately, from start to finish of the year, the value of Bitcoin grew by 73% and Ethereum went up 449%. Since I had 4 times more in Bitcoin than Ethereum, these two grew by a combined 148% in 2021, beating my own very bullish expectations. Not only that, I finally used 2021 to sell some smaller positions in projects that I thought had a less bright future and reinvested that money into what I believe to be more promising projects like Solana, AVAX, Polkadot and Luna. I decided not to talk about these in my videos over the past year as I didn't want to influence anyone to start speculating on even riskier assets within an already very high risk asset class, crypto. I hope you understand. Some of these did extremely well, especially Solana and AVAX, so this portion of my crypto portfolio grew even more. As a result, my total yearly performance from crypto in 2021 was actually more than 200%, which is absolutely insane, so I've been taking some profits off the table along the way, which we reinvested into ETFs and peer-to-peer lending. But just to clarify, 75% of my investments in crypto are still in the two largest crypto assets, Bitcoin and Ethereum. I would like to keep it that way as the other projects carry even more risk. If you're new to the space, please make sure you do your own research and look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first before dabbling in smaller projects. Also, never invest money that you absolutely can't afford to lose. I'll link all of my favorite crypto exchanges down below in the description. So, a lot has happened in 2021. In line with last year's video, here are my own unqualified predictions for how I think each investment is going to perform in 2022. We'll check in next year to see how close I got or if I was completely wrong. Even though my ETFs are currently down close to 6% already in 2022, I still think they'll end the year with positive returns overall. But I don't think this year will be nearly as bullish as 2021. So I'm expecting a yearly return of 5% from my ETFs in 2022. Meanwhile, I'm expecting more stable returns from my investments in peer-to-peer lending, ideally somewhere close to 10%. Sure, I could aim for even higher returns by going all in on the lending companies and loans offering the highest interest rate, but that also means taking on a lot more and more concentrated risk. I prefer spreading my risk by diversifying my investments in peer-to-peer lending over what I consider to be the best platforms, as well as lending companies based on their track record and financial statements. As for crypto, it's a sector that's very hard to predict. I think a lot of it is also going to depend on how the stock market does and if investors are more risk on or risk off this year. If the stock market gets back to its all-time high in 2022, which I do expect, then I think there's a very good chance that we'll see new all-time highs in Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. So my prediction for this speculative part of my portfolio is that we'll see 50% returns from start to finish of the year. Once again, with plenty of price movements in either direction. There you have it. Those are my predictions for my top 3 investments for 2022. Obviously, all of this is just based on my own opinion and not investment advice, so always do your own research as well. Which asset class do you think will perform best this year? I would love to know in the comments below. Before you take off, don't forget to smash the like button if you enjoyed the video and to subscribe if you want to see more. Also, if you'd like to support me and check out anything that I mentioned in the video, you can find all the links in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching and until next time.